Hey everybody. So I'm going to go over chapter 9 of Traction. In this chapter, the last chapter basically just focuses on bringing everything to a close and kind of a wrap up of what the entire book talks about. Chapter number 9 goes with that. Basically, it talks about uh, more of thinking and the mindset, the proper mindset to have while going through this program. And for starters, he advises to go at your own pace. So don't. This isn't a process to be rushed. He talked about how he had one company that was able to fully implement everything within 6 months, but then he also had a company that took about 2 years to get everything rolling, and that all depends on how long it takes for, of course, how long it takes people to get it, but also it also depends on the kind of company you have. So this is easier to implement if you're just running like some small mom and pop store and you have, maybe 6 or 7 employees and maybe 3 or 4 of them are family members. So it'd be easier, it maybe have an easier time implementing that on a smaller scale than, for instance, if a Walmart or Amazon or Apple or any of those type of companies, or even local chains, even when you have hundreds and hundreds of employees, that can still take a while and be difficult to implement when you have so many moving parts. And basically what you're working towards is the click. So what that is whether it's, just keep on going through the motions of implementing this, or reading the book over a couple times, reading your core values and your vision sheet over and over again, or having maybe for a month or so having 2 meetings a week as opposed to one meeting, to kind of get that repetition in, so that to help you to help the transition quicker. uh, and then stick with the 90-day world to stay focused. So once you establish your yearly goals, it's easier to keep people concentrated for, keep people focused for 90 days, rather than just have a yearly meeting and just set everything for the year, and then don't come back to any of that until for another 365 days. It's easier to chunk it up and make sure that you're taking that along the way. You're making sure that you're staying on track, and if you get off track, make sure you get back on track. So that's why those 90-day meetings are very important. Another thing it talks about is bigger isn't always better. So what it means by that is, uh, if if you're if you're making, let's say, 10 million, or making $10 million a year, and you're making $1 million profit, versus having a $50 million company and you're still only making $1 million profit. So in that case, it's not really worth it to have all that extra money and all that those extra headaches if you're bringing in the same amount of money. And the same thing goes for even if you're making more money. So if you're making, let's say, $2 million profit off of $10 million, versus making $10 million off of $100 million company, it may not be all the stuff extra stuff that you have to go through to keep up with that, may not be worth the extra $8 million that it takes to keep that focus and keep that running. It's also important to compartmentalize issues and goals. So that means that, if you want to reach $1 million in sales, or you want to get your customer service up to 80% satisfaction, that may be better focused on in the sales department as opposed to having that be a company goal. Uh, the if you stay focused on your core values, uh, stick with your core values. More often than not, only about 5% of the the people in your company you're gonna are not the right people. So generally speaking, most of the people that you already have, it'll work out for. But usually you don't have to like fire them or anything like that. More often than not, they'll either leave themselves or they'll either leave themselves or they'll be able the what you're asking for. Well, it'll be easy enough for them to transition over. Um, and then don't be distracted. Like I said, don't be distracted by the shiny stuff. So basically, that has to do with, like I said, don't think that you have to have this big time corporation to be successful, and don't think uh, that you have to get your hands into everything. So like a lot of the times you'll see like big companies, they'll sometimes make a mistake of trying to turn into a conglomerate when it's like you're focused, like you're good at TV or sales or whatever it may be. You don't need to get into the trucking industry, or you don't need to get into fixing cars and stuff like that. So it's important to, even if it seems like an enticing deal and it's like a guaranteed make money, if you don't know the business, what you're getting into, you're better off just focusing on what you know. Uh, and then also sometimes it's better to it's better to expand or to have separate departments. So for instance, if you are a if you are a let's think oh if you're a technology company, or let's say you're a social media company, so and you want to, like, a big part of social media is entertainment and stuff like that, so maybe you want to get into throwing parties. Well, it may be better, instead of having a different department, it may be better to have a whole nother company separate from that, kind of like uh it's kind of like similar to let's say Facebook. So they got Instagram. So instead of having Instagram on Facebook, or having the same having the same capabilities as you do on Instagram, it's better off just keeping them completely separate, and then keeping those resources in that company, and then Facebook's resources with that one, instead of crossing it up and mixing it all up. Because a lot of the times what happens is you basically end up spreading yourself thin. So for instance, you have somebody like in part of marketing, and they're doing stuff for Facebook, and they're having to do stuff for Instagram. It may be better just to have somebody focus on having people for Instagram hire separate people just to focus on that. And then also another thing too is, or important too, is figuring out how to clear your head. So it doesn't, like, people always talk about taking vacations and stuff like that, which that's not always necessary or possible. Especially sometimes if you're first starting off your company, you may not have the time or be able to really focus on building your business. If you're taking a week to go on vacation or a trip here or there, it may make things too difficult to where it's not worth it. So basically you kind of have to create your own paradise, and what that means is whatever gives you peace of mind. So sometimes some people, it's golf. They mentioned one of the guys liked to go to the library for like a day, and that was enough for him to reboot. So whatever it is, maybe it might be just going camping for a weekend. It may meditating every day for like an hour or something like that. Going for a bike ride, going for a walk, exercising, whatever it is, just whatever you need to do to blow off steam that helps you reset. By all means, go and do that. And then as well, enjoy the journey. So don't just keep your head down and keep pushing and pushing and pushing towards whatever, always staying on what your goal is. Enjoy how far you come, going from, if you were, if you used to, if you were in uh $10,000, you put $10,000 in the company, and you've basically been keeping your head down, trying to focus in on trying to get that up and then be getting to the positive. If you get it down to, let's say, 5,000 or 2,000, celebrate that. Even though you're not quite where you want to be, you at least are moving forward, you're not moving backward, and that's an accomplishment in itself. And then also, the number one thing overall is always stay focused, stay focused, stay focused, stay focused. If there's one thing about, as far as advice goes, for being successful, for being an entrepreneur, for anything that you want to do, whether it's business, whether it's sports, whether it's academics, it's always stay focused, stay focused, stay focused. And that's become a lot more difficult now with technology and, so social media, people always wanting to have fun and do all this other stuff. It's a matter of having that will, that patience, and that dedication to, more often than not, it doesn't mean you can't enjoy yourself, but you have to remember, more often than not, you have to be able to strong enough to push away those distractions and understand, really, really take in the value of what you're doing and understanding its importance as you as along on your pursuits, and making sure that you don't give up and you don't let anybody sidetrack you. So if you have a friend, even if it's a close friend, it doesn't mean you have to cut people off. It just means, if people are going out, it's like, man, why do you guys do that? And like, you can stand up and, like, they're gonna do what they're gonna do. So it is what it is. So at the end of the day, you gotta take care of yourself and know that what you are sacrificing, that immediate gratification, you're delaying that for something much bigger. And so that's, especially a young person, it seems so simple, which it is, but it's one of those basic principles that's very difficult to implement more often than not, so that you can be successful. So I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.